How's it going, everybody? I hope you're well, and welcome back to Music with Michelle. And welcome to my first reaction to the brand new Royal Blood album, Back to the Water Below, with special guest my dog Inca. She's a big Royal Blood fan as well. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this album. It's been a few years since the last album came out, which I really did quite like. It's on the wall behind me, as you can see. I love the different vibe that they went for with the album, so it'd be interesting to see if they follow a similar pattern with this one. As always, I will be doing a tier list as well, but I'll explain that more when we get to it. And yeah, let's get straight into the album. Okay, so the first song on the album is called Mountains at Midnight, which I have heard before. I've actually got a reaction to that on my channel if you want to go check that out. I won't bother reacting to it again on this video because I've already done it before. So yeah, a link to that video will be in the description. So yeah, we will be skipping through the first song, but this does give me a good opportunity to talk about the tier list. So when I do these album reactions, I like to have a tier list because it gives like a good visual representation of how I feel about the song straight after listening to it. And I'm sure you guys know how a tier list works, but in case you don't, pretty much the higher the tier, the more I like the song. As you can see, the bottom tier there is called Miss. If any songs go in this category, it means that I just flat out don't like the song. I think it's just a terrible song altogether. One above that is not for me. You know, sometimes a song is a decent song, but it's just not really your taste. The middle one is re-listen. Sometimes songs take more than one listen to understand if you really like it or not. The one above that is called Straight into my playlist, and if a song goes in here, it means that I just like the song straight away and I want to listen to it over and over again. And then we have the top tier, and the top tier I like to reserve for, you know, one of my favorite songs from the band, and one of my favorite songs from Royal Blood is Boilermaker from their last record. So if any song goes into this tier, it means that I think it's on par with some of their best songs. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a few of those in this video. So yeah, that's the tier list out of the way, and so I'll move straight on to the first song, which is Mountains at Midnight. Again, I've reacted to it on my channel already, so if you want to go watch that reaction, I'll leave a link in the description, and I won't bother talking about it too much because, you know, I've already made a video on it. Pretty much, you know, it goes straight into my playlist, this song, just because, you know, it's been out for, I want to say it's been out for around 2-3 months now. I think it came out at the end of May, start of June time, and I've been listening to it ever since, really. So it's a pretty good song. I spoke about it more in the actual video itself, but yeah, check that out if you want to see my first hand reaction. And yeah, let's just get straight on to song number 2. And at song number 2, we have Shiner in the Dark. Okay, so far it seems pretty standard Royal Blood. Not that I was expecting anything really different, especially from the two songs that have already come out. It seems like they are going back to, you know, their almost like their roots, because they did try something different with their last record. But yeah, this one does sound pretty standard Royal Blood so far, which isn't a bad thing. Okay, so that was song number 2, Shiner in the Dark. I've got a lot to say about Royal Blood, to be fair. I've spoke about it a little bit in my previous videos that I've made about Royal Blood. I like them as a band, I really do. I've seen them live twice. I have a bit of a problem with them live, but in terms of their records, the records they put out, I really do like. Like I said during the initial reaction, like, it feels like a very typical Royal Blood song. There's nothing too different to what we've heard before, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think Royal Blood are a very unique band in what they do, and there's not really any other bands I know of personally that make sounds the way they do. And of course they have all the restrictions where it's, you know, Jamie on the bass, Ben on the drums, and that's pretty much it. Okay, quick intermission. Throughout the video, I kept calling Mike Jamie for whatever reason. It's not until I finished recording where I was like, hold on, who am I talking about? There is no Jamie in Royal Blood. His name's Mike. So I do apologise for calling him Jamie throughout this whole reaction. So every time you hear me talk about Jamie, I'm actually talking about lead singer Mike. So Yeah, that's my bad. We saw a few different elements come in during their last album. In Typhoons, it took like a bit more of an 80s feel. It was a bit more, I don't know, a bit more poppy, bit synthy. There was a piano song in there as well, so it was like completely different to what we've heard from the band before. And I think that's what I'm kind of looking for in this album. I'm looking for something a bit different. Because yeah, I've spoke about it before, but seeing Royal Blood live, and I've seen loads of people say the same thing, they are quite boring. And it's not the lack of showmanship or the lack of stage presence, because Jamie interacts really well with the crowd and he's a great frontman for a band, and Ben is very interactive and he puts on a show as well. But it's the actual music itself. If you're listening to an hour-long set of Royal Blood play their music back to back to back, it can get really repetitive because, you know, the music's very riff heavy and, you know, it's a drum and a bass guitar which is made to sound like a heavy rock guitar, so there's only so much they can do with it. I get that, so I'm just hoping that in this album we have a bit more variety. And I wouldn't say this one has variety. It kind of feels like something we've heard before, again though, not in a bad way. I think it was still a really good song, and I think the more the song went on, the more I really liked it. And I think the distinct difference that I'm noticing between this song and the songs that I've heard so far on this album, the first two, and their first debut album and How Did It Get So Dark, the first two albums, the difference I'm seeing so far is the production. The first couple of albums felt very raw, it felt very in your face, it was very, very heavy, where these songs so far, they feel a bit more layered, a bit more, feels like there's been a bit more of an emphasis on the production side. I think that's what I'm noticing so far, and I do really like that because it does differentiate between the first two albums pretty much. But once again, sticking with the formula, even the formula of the actual structure of the song is pretty similar, where it's like a cool riff to begin, a couple of verses, a chorus, then you have like this guitar solo. I did really like the solo actually in this song towards the end. It didn't even sound like a bass, it sounded like it was being played on the actual guitar, which is really cool. But yeah, overall, it's not something new particularly, it's not anything groundbreaking, but it is new for Royal Blood, which in itself is slightly innovative and refreshing in a way. So if there is 10 songs like this on the album, I think it would get repetitive, but it's good to have a few like this in here. So I'm not going to judge too early because we're only 2 songs in. There might be some variation going on, but if this is, you know, what they're going for the whole album, then fair enough. But in terms of this song, Shiner in the Dark, I think, yeah, the more it went on, the more I liked it. And I think I'll say I'll put it straight in my playlist because, yeah, I did enjoy it the more it went on. It was a cool riff. Jamie sounds great as always, he's got a great voice, and yeah, just I'm still intrigued to see where this is going to go, but this might be setting the precedent for the rest of the album, I don't know. But yeah, we can move on to song number 3, and song number 3 is Pull Me Through, which is another song that I have heard from the album. It's the last song that I actually know from the rest on this album. I didn't bother doing a reaction to this one because, to be honest, I just didn't really feel like making a video about it. I felt like what I said in the first video for Mountains at Midnight kind of applied to this song. Although I will say that Pull Me Through had a bit of a different twist to it. It started off with that like acoustic guitar, which is pretty cool, and then it moved into the riff stuff. But I really like the structure of the song. I really like the sound, the melody, and to be honest, like, it's been on repeat since I heard it. I think it came out last month. It's been on repeat pretty much ever since. I do really enjoy the song. There was a part of me that was thinking, you know, this is one of their best songs ever released because I've really enjoyed it. It's obviously very fresh, but yeah, I thought it was a bit refreshing in terms of what I've heard from them before. And yeah, something a bit different, and I would like to see this kind of song being played live because it adds a bit of variety. So I'm not going to put it at the top, but I will put it straight into my playlist because I heard it, liked it, still been listening to it, so it makes sense to put it there. But yeah, that was a pretty good song. I did like that one. But we're 3 for 3 so far in terms of every song on the album so far I've liked. And I think that would be the theme for the rest of the album. Like, I don't think there's going to be anything on here that I particularly don't like because they don't seem to stray from what they're good at. So chances are most of the songs will fit in the same sort of category, but we'll see. So yeah, let's move on to song number 4. And at song number 4, we have The Firing Line. Okay, this already sounds a bit different. I know it's been said a million times, I know the gimmick is kind of worn off a little bit, but I do find it mad that the sound we're hearing is from a bass guitar. Like, that still kind of blows my mind a little bit. Yes, this is what I was asking for. Something a bit different. That piano in there. I like that. I like it. right, yes, that is what I want to hear more of. That was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that song, actually. It may not have been anything too crazy and anything too out there, but again, it goes back to what I was talking about. Like, it adds that bit of variety, it adds that different musical element to their discography. I will say, though, I absolutely love the chorus. Like, I love that transition that went between the verse and the chorus. It wasn't really a hook, it was just straight into the chorus. I love that, whatever chord progression that was. I think it was played on the piano as well. I thought that was brilliant. And yeah, the actual guitar riff itself, again, very subtle in terms of, you know, what Royal Blood usually do. But again, I really appreciate that. And I get it. Like, it must be really hard to kind of steer away from what you know you're good at, because they've built this fan base from pretty much having these just really rock heavy riffs, and they've built that fan base up over what it's been what 7 8 years since they released their first record. So they've built that fan base up, and it must be very hard to veer away from that path, because you know what you're good at, you know what your fans like, you don't know if they will be receptive to a song like this and anything different. But for me personally, like the last album, Typhoons, the songs that stood out for me were like All We Have Is Now, which was the piano song, the really slow one. I love that to end the record, brilliant. Trouble's Coming, which was different to what they've released. Typhoons, which all of them had like this different, almost like 80s element to it. I think they said they wrote that album with the idea of it being played in like an 80s film during the soundtrack, and that definitely resonated. But there was a lot of songs on there that are just, you know, you just forget about. You hear it and you can't name it, even if that makes sense, because it sounds like their other stuff. So songs like this for me stick out like a sore thumb because they're different, they add variety, and I love it. I really do like it. And I will say, I think for those reasons that I just mentioned, you know, I think I'm gonna put it at the top, just because, you know, it has those different elements to it. I'm gonna remember this song. I want to go back and listen to it already. Whereas like the second song, don't really have that desire to listen to it as much. This one, I want to go hear it again because it was just different. I enjoyed that. I'd love to see there be a few more songs like that, but the fact that we're 4 songs in and we've already got a song which is a bit different, I'm already happy. It's a good sign, I think, for going forward. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Fire in Line, and let's get on to number 5, see where that takes us. At number 5, we have Tell Me When It's Too Late. You like that song, Inka? Oh, that's heavy. Okay, that was number 5, Tell Me When It's Too Late. I know I said before that, you know, I like a bit of variety, something different, but you really can't beat a nice heavy riff from Royal Blood. I think when they get these riffs right, I think it works so well. It's just when the song's a bit more monotonous, that's when it doesn't work. But songs like this, I think, hit fantastically. Like, it still amazes me how he's able to come up with all these different riffs. I know they kind of tamper with different tunings and they go drop C, drop D, all this kind of stuff, but you know, it always comes up with these really cool, innovative, heavy riffs that are just so addictive to listen to. And this kind of song just makes me want to like pick up a guitar and learn it, because so I imagine playing this one live for him would be incredible. I feel like really powerful, and I do feel like, although like what I mentioned about the repetitiveness and they're not the greatest live band, again, not because of their ability, just because of their variety, I do still feel there is a bit of a gap in the market for songs like this, like really heavy songs, because as you know, rock music isn't like it used to be. Not saying it's better or worse, that's up to you to decide, but you don't really have a lot of this kind of music, at least in the mainstream, being released. There probably are bands making songs like this, but in terms of mainstream, you don't have a lot of just really riff heavy rock music anymore. So it is still cool to see that it has a place. And again, though, I can see the opposite side of it. I can see why people are sick of it and they find it repetitive, and like I said, I do agree with that to an extent. But I think songs like this, they sound unique, they're very refreshing, very cool, just that face-melting riff, really, really thick riff. Yeah, I like it. I don't think it compares really to any of the riffs that we heard on their first record, because I think that's when they were at the best. Because probably because it was new and very innovative for the time, but I still think it was a very good song. So Tell Me When It's Too Late is going to go straight into my playlist. Yeah, I pretty much knew from the start that I like that one, and I think the good thing as well is that although the albums are quite short, 10 songs on this one, the songs itself are quite short as well. There's not really enough time for it to become boring, really. They're like 2 to 3 minutes long. You have the riff, you have the similar structure that follows most Royal Blood songs, where it's the intro, verse, chorus, riff, chorus. You know, it's a pretty similar pattern throughout the songs. But yeah, when they're short like this, you can't really complain because they're pretty much over before they start. And I think with this kind of music, that's what they kind of have to be, if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, we're halfway through the album now, and let's get on to song number 6, which is called Triggers. Okay, that was number 6, Triggers, and yeah, I think this one definitely falls into that more monotonous category that I was talking about earlier, where it's kind of a forgettable song really compared to what we've heard before. I think this is definitely the weakest song so far. I really like the drums on here. I think Ben, this was his song where he could really show off. He had a great start to the song, and then there's a little drum fill towards the end as well, which I really like. But yeah, I think overall it wasn't anything too exciting. There wasn't too much going on, not too much variety in the actual riff and main part of the song itself. And yeah, like when I was talking about Typhoons earlier and how like a few songs on there just kind of went under the radar because they were a bit, you know, bland, I suppose is the word, compared to other songs. I think this one definitely fits that category. So I think for that reason, I'll go ahead and put Triggers. I'm going to put it in re-listen because I think it's a bit unfair to say it's not for me from the first go, because the album has been very solid up to this point. But yeah, I'll have to give it a listen, you know, on its own, out of context of the actual album itself. But yeah, I think it was just a bit forgettable, you know. It wasn't nothing to expect. It didn't really hook, line and sinker me, you know, to pun. So yeah, that's going to go and re-listen for now, and I'll give it another listen at a later date, probably after this. And yeah, let's move on to song number 7. Getting through this album very quickly, and at number 7 is How Many More Times. Okay, that was How Many More Times, number 7. And yeah, pretty much what I said about the song before kind of flows into this one. Same things kind of apply. There's elements of this song that I did like, but it's kind of hard to break down this kind of song because there's pretty much just the guitar, drum, and the vocals. But yeah, again, I just found myself kind of zoning out a little bit, which isn't something that I usually do with Royal Blood songs. They usually keep you hooked for at least the 2.5 minutes usually that the song's on for. But yeah, I just found myself kind of drifting away a little bit. It didn't really catch me again. I thought it was a bit, yeah, just a bit, I don't know if I'd say boring, because there was some pretty good elements to it. Like, I really did like Jamie's voice on here. I thought he sounded really good, and I like the melodies as well. But yeah, I think there's just a fine line between what makes a Royal Blood song good, and I think these kind of songs just sort of travel that line a little bit, and they don't cross on either side. Like, it's not bad, but At the same time, it's not really that interesting, to be honest, for me personally. But like I said, there was some elements in there that I did kind of enjoy, and it's one of those songs again that the more it went on, the more I kind of liked it, especially that last minute when it kind of tried something a bit different. That's when I really started to pay attention to it, and I kind of liked it a bit more. So I think it's only fair really to put it into re-listen, because I was kind of getting into it a bit more as the song went on. Yeah, I think I'll put it to re-listen as well. But yeah, I'm definitely starting to see a bit of a drop off between the first half of the album and the second half. So let's see if it can pick back up. Let's go on to song number 8. And at song number 8, we have Higher Waters. What do you think so far, Inka?
Huh?
Yeah, I think the same thing applies for this song for the last two as well. It's kind of, we're in the same similar pattern now for the last 3 songs, and obviously it's my first listen, so I don't know the songs off by heart already, but I just feel like the last 3 have just kind of blended into one. Like there's not really been anything substantial from the last 3 where I've kind of taken away from it being like, oh, that was pretty cool, that was different. It all just feels pretty bare bones, to be honest. It kind of feels like they've taken on board people's criticisms where it's been like, you know, your albums are just 10 songs full of riffs, and they've tried something a bit different, but at the same time they've like stayed in this lane where it's like not taking too many risks. It's pretty, yeah, it's pretty bare bones. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I can imagine like making a song like this is very technical and there's a lot to it, and like if I made this song I'd obviously be very impressed. So I'm sure for them, they listen to this and they're like, oh, this is a great piece of music, and it is still a good piece of music. But I think in the context, this is their 4th album, right? This is their 4th album, and it just doesn't feel like it's too different to anything we've heard before. I mean, especially the last 3 songs, but in terms of their entire discography, it just feels, I wouldn't say out of place. I don't know, nothing, it's just not really doing anything for me personally. There's nothing happening, like especially these last 3 songs. I think the first half of the album was very good, very positive. They implemented a few different elements, but I think these last 3, they've just dragged. They kind of just feel like filler, and you can't really have filler in a 10-song album. There's not really enough space for that. So yeah, it's strange. I just don't feel like there's a direction so far in this album, really. The first 5 songs definitely, but the second half it just feels like it's been pieced together, a bit rushed. I don't know, considering it's been like 3 years since Typhoons came out, so it can't be rushed. But like, yeah, it's just not really doing anything for me, the second half of the album. And High Waters, I'm reluctant to put it into re-listen because I gave the last 2 songs the benefit of the doubt by saying like, in the context of listening to it outside the album might be different, but considering it's the 3rd song that's kind of fit this similar theme, I think I'm going to put it to not for me, just because it didn't grab me. The songs are only like just over 2 minutes long, and I'm finding it pretty boring, to be honest. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going to put it not for me. I'm very much hoping the final 2 songs are going to lift it up a bit and we can try and get into the similar direction we had for the first few songs. So yeah, let's go on to the penultimate song on the album, and that song is called There Goes Michael. Yeah, already this has like a pull me through vibe already, so I'm liking it so far from the start. Good signs.
Spot.
Yeah, that is more like it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I wanted. Bit of variety, something a bit different. It started off like Pull Me Through, but whereas Pull Me Through diverted then into like a more traditional Royal Blood song, this one stayed in that path, and the main part of the song was the acoustic and the vocals, which is great because, as I mentioned before, Jamie's a fantastic singer. He's got a great range, so to use it, I think he should be using it a bit more, taking advantage of how good he is. And then obviously you got Ben, the drummer, who's great at just kind of flowing with the track. And what I found quite interesting about this one was that, like, whereas the guitar is the main vocal part usually on a Royal Blood song, this one kind of acted more like the bass, where it was in the background, it was keeping the flow. And I thought that was very interesting because there's two sides of the coin, really. You've got the fact that they have been making the same kind of music and they've put themselves into a box, which means that they feel like they have to continue making this kind of music, which I think has been evident in the last 3 songs. But then you've got the other side of the coin, whereas like they now have this opportunity to branch out and experiment a bit more. And I suppose if the fans are quite receptive to songs like this one, like Pull Me Through, like I think it was the 5th song, if fans are more receptive to that, then we probably will see them come out a little bit more, because I'm sure if you've seen Royal Blood live, I'm sure you would appreciate a song like this in the middle of their set, towards the end, at the start, whatever, just to break it up a little bit, you know, give a little bit of a break from the just heaviness and like I said, it gets repetitive. So to have songs like this is fantastic, and above all else, it was a great song. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the melodies were fantastic. I love the chord progressions. I just love the flow of the song, really. And yeah, the fact that the guitar, you know, that heavy bass guitar wasn't the main crux of the song, I think is really cool. I want to see more stuff like this. That's what I was wanting from this album. We've got like 2 or 3 out of the 10 or 9 so far. And I got to say, yeah, that's more like it, in my opinion. That's what I like to see. I'll be honest, for a song called There Goes My Call, I thought it would be quite heavy, a bit riff heavy, but no, it was quite the opposite, very chilled out. I really did like it though. I like the more melancholic feel to it. I wouldn't say it's one of their best songs, but I'm definitely putting it straight to my playlist. Big fan of that one. And yeah, let's move on to the final song on the album. It has gone very quick. Of course, it is a very short album, and I have already heard 2 songs. But yeah, this is the final song on the album, and that song is called Waves. Okay, let's hope for a good finish. All We Have Is Now is one of my favorite songs from the last album, and that was the final song. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping we have something a bit similar, because I really did like that song, and I still listen to it to this day. So yeah, let's see what this song has in store. That's a weird progression, quite unorthodox, but it's interesting.
I could waste every night. I could fade in our mind. Where would I go? What would I take? Like nothing to say. Lose me down under the waves. I could give up the fight. Let go. What would I take? If you ever lose me down under the waves.
Okay, that was the final song, Waves, and yeah, again, I'm happy with that one. I'm glad that they ended in that way. Definitely not as sort of introspective and personal and heartfelt as All We Have Is Now, which was the last song on the last album, but definitely a refreshing song on here, and yeah, definitely something a bit more chilled out, a bit more laid back, and yeah, once again goes back to the variety thing, adding more variety to the album. And I think the good thing as well is that that's like the 3rd song on this album that features a piano quite heavily, so they're adding more different different songs to their repertoire, and I can imagine that during the next Royal Blood tour we might start to see the use of a piano on stage maybe. But yeah, I think a great way to end the album. I always say that ending an album is one of the hardest things to do because it's like your last remaining memory of that album and your last kind of impressions of it. So it's important to end it well, and I think they made a good choice here by making this type of song instead of like a riff heavy song. I think it's a pretty good choice to include something like this on there. I think the song that it's most comparable to is probably All We Have Is Now. I don't think it's as good as that one, so I don't think I'll put it at the top, but I'll put it straight into my playlist because, again, adds that variety. I like the use of the piano. I thought there was some pretty unorthodox chords in there, a bit of a weird chord progression, but it kind of worked. It was different and innovative, and yeah, like I said, just refreshing. It was nice to see. So as you can see, that is the finished tier list. As expected, there's no songs that went into the mist because I don't think Royal Blood's that kind of band that can make a song that is just flat out terrible. We have one song in the not for me, which is High Waters. And I think it just suffered from the fact that it's placed after the two songs above it in the tier above, and it just became quite monotonous and boring at that point. So whether it's the placement or the actual song, I'm not sure, but that one just completely did nothing for me. Two songs and re-listen with triggers and how many more times. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll try the songs again, but first impressions were not great. Nothing really jumped out at me. Wasn't too impressed. Then we have 6 songs in the straight into my playlist, including the 2 songs that I had heard previously going into this album. So about 4 songs from this album have gone straight into my playlist. Yeah, I heard these songs and straight away I knew I liked them, and I'd be happy to listen to them over and over again. And then we have one song at the very top, which is The Firing Line. I did really enjoy this one, something a bit different, and yeah, I do think it is one of the best Royal Blood songs I've heard. I think it's up there in the discography. Obviously, I'll have to listen to it a few more times to get a proper impression of it, but first impressions were great. I really enjoyed it, and I think it deserved to be at the top. So yeah, that's my tier list. Let me know in the comments below if you agree and if some songs should be higher, some songs should be lower. Let me know. So that was my reaction to the brand new Royal Blood album, Back to the Water Below. Yeah, I think overall, I don't think it's their best album. I think it might be one of the weakest, maybe alongside How Did We Get So Dark. And yeah, I think the main reason for that is that it just lacked a little bit of identity, I think, really. I like the singles they chose. I thought that was a good way to kind of represent the album. But I think in terms of the actual songs we heard that are brand new today, I think, you know, there was nothing in there really that really stood out to me. There wasn't a lot of riff heavy stuff either. There was just quite a few songs that, as I said, they bordered that line between, you know, typical Royal Blood, trying something new but sticking to what they know. It didn't really cross either line. It kind of just stayed down that lane. So I think for that reason, nothing really jumped out at me. There was a few songs on there that I really liked and a few elements of them that I really enjoyed. And I did enjoy the more piano stuff, the acoustic stuff, just because it added a little bit of a different selection when it comes to their music. And I hope they do integrate some of these into a live setting, because as I said, I've seen them twice now, and both times I've watched them, I've been, you know, I'll be honest, a little bit bored watching it because the riffs, they get very repetitive after a while. So I think to include a couple more of these newer songs in there, I think will be a good idea. And I could definitely see them doing that. As I said, I can imagine them incorporating a piano in the future, because they've definitely pushed the more piano heavy stuff. We saw it with All I Need Is Now on the last album, and there's about, I think there was 3 songs on here that integrated some kind of piano into the song, so that was really cool. There's also a couple of songs where like the guitar was on the back foot and the vocals and other instrumentations were on the front foot, which I thought was very cool. But yeah, overall it's still a very good record. You know, it's Royal Blood doing Royal Blood things, cool guitar riffs, cool guitar tones, great drum work, great vocals. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really listen to the lyrics too much from Royal Blood because I kind of focus more on the music, so I'm not really too sure what was being said and what the actual album's about as a whole. I don't really focus on that too much during the first listen. The first listen for me is just more about the music elements and whether I enjoy it from like an instrumentation standpoint. But yeah, I thought the production was fantastic. You can definitely see an improvement from their early stuff compared to the last 2 albums. I thought they really upped it on the last album, Typhoons, and they've kind of stayed in that lane in this one. They've maintained that great production value. I've seen on their social media that they've really gone hard on like the actual studio stuff, and they've got all this fantastic equipment. They're working with great people. They also have like a very heavy involvement with the actual production process, so that definitely shines through. I think the balancing overall is better than it was on the first couple of records, but I think what I liked about those records as well is that they were so raw and so sort of untouched. It just felt like something brand new, felt a bit underground, a bit garage, like early Black Keys, where it was like recorded in their basement or something. It just had that feel to it, whereas this album feels very polished and it feels like they've really taken their time. And as I said, it's been 3 years since their last album and they haven't really released that many songs between then, so they've probably been working on this for a good few years now. I think that definitely shows the quality is there. I just think for a 10-song album to be half an hour long, you're not going to get too much out of it really, because they're not really spending too much time on each song. And not to say it felt rushed, because it definitely didn't, but I just feel like they could have spent a bit more time on a few songs. They could have introduced a few different things in there, maybe broken up the album a bit more, because there was that part in the second half of the album where the 3 songs in a row were just super repetitive, and I just weren't really a big fan of it. It really took me out of the album, because I thought the first half was actually really good. It's just the second half kind of took me out a little bit, but overall I think it was still a solid album. Probably not my favorite album of the year, but it's kind of what I was expecting from a Royal Blood album, so I'm not disappointed. I was just kind of hoping they would take it up a notch, maybe go somewhere different, but I think they're kind of sticking to what they know. Maybe that's part of the title name, you know, Back to the Water Below. They're going back to their roots, trying to you know, get back to what they're good at, instead of doing what they did with Typhoons, which was kind of, that had more of a theme to it. Like I said, it was like an 80s sort of theme, like a film soundtrack kind of theme, whereas this one just feels like a Royal Blood album. So overall, I'm not too disappointed. I'm always happy to see new Royal Blood music, so it's always welcome to see them release a new album. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of the album. Did you have a favorite song on here? Overall, did you think it is better than the previous work, or is it regressed? Has it progressed? Let me know. I want to say a big thank you if you've made it this far into the video. I'll be doing a lot more content like this in the future, including some more Royal Blood related videos, and if they ever drop any more music, I will be sure to react to it on this channel. Inka, do you have any more final thoughts?
Subscribe to Music with Michelle.
You heard it, guys. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I hope you have a nice day.